So we're here today with Jenny Mee. Jenny is an ADPT, is that right? Or APDT?
APDT.
APDT dog trainer. I always get it the wrong way around. So Jenny is a very good friend of mine and also works for one of the large dog welfare organisations. So I've asked Jenny to come along today to have a chat to people about separation anxiety relating to sort of the lockdown that we're currently seeing ourselves in. So I mean, you've seen it as well, Jenny, through like general Facebook things, that dogs are tending to be a little bit worse at the minute with their anxiety.
Yeah, I think some owners already are starting to perhaps pick up on their dog struggling a little bit. But the other thing I've noticed as well is there's a few people, which is a good thing that they're thinking about it, a few people starting to sort of say, well, I'm really quite worried about when we go back to normal, because I mean, I think our dogs probably, with lockdown, our dogs in most cases are the ones that are really benefiting from it and having us at home. But there is a worry that they get so used to that contact and that company all of the time, and that when people do go back to school and work and things like that, that it's going to come as a bit of a shock. So I think it's worth, while we've got the time on lockdown, if we're at home a lot, there's things we can start to be doing to try and to prevent bigger problems in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I've noticed my dogs, like every time I turn around, they're there. And they're quite like glue anyway, but at the minute they're just like, don't want them to take it too much for granted.
Yeah. And I think it's quite tiring for them as well. Like, I've got 2 young children and I've got 2 spaniels, so they're quite happy to be running around with them all the time, and they think it's great. But then I've noticed in the evening they're shattered, they're really tired compared to normal, and I worry that as much as they get exercise and stimulation when I'm at work, they're getting a lot more at the minute. And I suppose, just as you would build up a dog's fitness, I'm almost going to have to start, I'm trying to give them days where we do a lot less, and because I think that side of things can have a big impact as well.
Yeah, that's the other thing, isn't it? It's like their mental stimulation is changing so much over this period as well. Like, I can see it in Prim's eyes. Like, if she's done too much, she's like gone, and you're just like, oh no, like she needs to go in her room and have a rest. And to be fair, you can stick her in her crate, and because she's so used to being in there, she'll be asleep within a few minutes, and you think, yeah, we needed that.
Yeah, a few people have messaged me actually saying, oh, I'm really worried, my dog's really lethargic and their eyes are really red. And there's been a couple of times friends have messaged me and I've sort of said, well, are you sure it's not just that, you know, when you're at work or you're out and about, that they get much better nap time, whereas they might nap, like I've got my young lad here sat with me, but he's not properly napping, he's not sleeping how he would if I was at work, where he'd have a good couple of hours while I was out. It's like a quick anything that's going on. I've said that to people, they've gone, oh yeah, actually, yeah, that probably is it. He's probably just shattered. And it's just trying to encourage them to have a little bit of quiet time and make sure they get, you know, depending on their age and kind of activity levels, get that rest time that they need.
That's the other thing as well, isn't it? Like puppies, like when they're little, like when Prim was little, she needed so much sleep, and it must be difficult for families that have got like children at home, like you're saying, that are always on the go. The children are in the house, the puppy's on the go.
And that's when, and that again, without going off on a bit of a tangent, but that's when you then start to get other problems, like, you know, puppies mouthing really hard, or, you know, toileting accidents, things like that can all be linked to not having enough rest and enough kind of quiet time. And I know a lot of people have kind of said, oh, this sort of lockdown time, it's perfect to get a puppy because we've got all this time at home, which is great in some ways. But I think particularly with puppies or a new dog, it's then, okay, this is normal at the minute, but you've also got to prepare them for what's going to be normal in the long run when this all ends as well, so that it doesn't become a massive shock to them.
So what sort of steps can people take now to put in place so that their dog is beginning to spend a little bit of time away from them?
I think it's going to depend a little bit depending on whether your dog is showing kind of signs of anxiety or not. But I think in most cases, dogs dogs are quite social, and we're generally quite social, so they will often just kind of follow you around, potter you around the house or the garden, wherever you go, without really us or them paying too much attention to them doing it or why they're doing it. So I think if you can, just trying to encourage them to have a little bit of time away from you, whether that's, you know, there's different things you can do, whether it's you've got a baby gate up and they're in one room, and they've got their bed and a Kong or a chew or a toy, and you're in the other room where they can still see you, but you're getting on with some work, or you're homeschooling the kids or whatever, and just encouraging them to have that little bit of quiet time on their own. Even you know, even suggestions such as, if you're working from home, you know, do half an hour of your calls or your work if you can from upstairs, and leave the dog downstairs with something to do. So long as, you know, obviously if they're kind of crying or howling, we might need to introduce it a little bit more slowly. But even so much as, you know, if they do pot around and follow you, it can be really easy to get into the habit of just, if you're anything like me, chatting away to them, as, you know, even just, we don't want to punish them for following us, but if we can't physically stop them all of the time, just making an effort to not draw too much attention to it. So some of the time, if they, like my older spaniel Betsy, she'll sometimes follow me for a little bit, and if I interact with her and I'm chatting away to her and I'm doing stuff with her, she'll stay with me, because it's almost like I want her to stay. Whereas if I make a conscious effort of, well, she can follow me if she wants to, but I'm not going to talk to her for the next 20 minutes, she'll follow me for a little bit, and then you can see her like, oh, this is boring, okay, I'm going to go get on my bed. So it's just encouraging that, really, that they don't have to be with us all the time. And I'm trying to, like, both of mine have chose, I'm sat in my little summer house, they've both chose to come and sit with me, and that's fine. Going to sort of tell them they've got to go away, but I'm also, you know, really dependent on that.
So you touched on there as well the signs of separation anxiety. So what are the sort of typical signs that people perhaps would see in this period?
I guess dogs that really struggle to be apart from people or from a set owner. So, you know, a lot of dogs, like I say, will just potter around and follow, in itself a massive worry. But if you try to go to the toilet, for example, and shut the door, and they're whining and scratching at the door, or you go upstairs and you leave them behind the stair gate and they're really struggling to cope, even with distractions, then that would be something that might be kind of setting off a little bit of a warning light that, you know, okay, maybe we need to be a little bit more conscious of this, and try and get our dogs used to spending a little bit more time on their own. And you can build it up. The good thing with being on lockdown, we can build it up really gradually. It's much better to start thinking about it now than to wait till we get the go ahead that, okay, we're going back to work on Monday. Oh, now I've got to panic and start getting my dog used to it. So just trying to build in little bits of quiet time. Like I say, if they struggle to be separated completely, trying to add in times where they can still see you and they're still with you, but maybe they're just separated with a baby gate, or they're laying down while the kids are doing the homeschooling, but no one's giving them attention for that half an hour period, and just encouraging them to have their own bits of enrichment. Or while the weather's been nice, because we've been homeschooling in the kitchen, and we've had the kitchen door open, and if the dogs want to come and sit in the kitchen with us, a lot of the time we're not going to stop them, but I'm encouraging them to be outside, because it's just trying to have that little bit of distance. So I've put their comfy bed out there in the sunshine, and they have their Kongs out there, and all the good stuff happens on their bed where I want them to relax and chill out. So if they're getting treats, then the treats get thrown out onto the bed. So it's almost rewarding them for having that little bit of independence and not needing to be sat under our feet all of the time.
Yeah, because like, in fact, all of mine find just interaction with you so rewarding. Like, they get so much out of it. And like you were saying about talking to them, I'll talk to Prim, like when we're driving somewhere, I chat to her. When we're in the salon, I chat to her, and I think, oh my god, like, and it's like having a full-blown conversation. And Joe always says to me, she's not talking back to you, I don't know why you keep talking to her. And it's like, well, she is, just in her own little way. Yeah. But you do, don't you? You just rab it on, and she must be like, oh, for God's sake, will you be quiet?
Yeah, and it's a really easy habit to get into. You know, I'm not saying you should never, you're never allowed to chat to your dog, but it's just, I suppose, like thinking of it as part of their routine. So just as I'm sure at the minute that part of their routine is they have their dinner time, they have their walk times, trying to also factor in, okay, we're going to have some quiet time, we're going to have some time where they're separated from us, or a little bit segregated at least, and they've, particularly if they're younger dogs and they perhaps struggle to settle on their own, there's things you can do. So giving them Kongs and chews and snuffle mats and licking mats, so that they've got that extra reward when they do make that right choice to be a little bit independent.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just about to ask you something then in my head and it's gone. What was it about? I can't remember now, it's gone. I was going to say, oh yeah, I need to ask you that as well. Oh yes, I do. It's a comeback. So we said about the signs and everything. So if people are noticing that now and are starting to struggle, because it can be a bit like you feel at the minute, well, I do anyway, you feel at the minute like you're kind of stuck in your house, you can't go out. I've got a puppy that is perhaps struggling with me leaving, and is there any help out there that people could do now? Or
yeah, I think a lot of dog trainers and behaviourists have adapted quite quickly to sort of lockdown, and conscious that we want to help as much as possible so that we don't end up with this massive backlog of separation problems or puppy problems when lockdown finishes. So there are a lot of trainers that are doing puppy training through Zoom or Skype sort of calls like this. There are behaviourists as well that are doing Skype consultations. So if it's just kind of a little bit of, I'm a bit conscious about this becoming a problem and I want to start putting these steps in, then, and you feel happy to do it at home, then by all means make a start on that. And there's lots of information and videos on YouTube and things like that. But if it's something that perhaps your dog's had a little bit of problem with separation in the past and it's starting to escalate and you're worried that it's going to get even worse, there are places that you can go to get help. I think the main thing is just checking and making sure you're using somebody with the right credentials and experience. So for your basic training, puppy training, those sorts of things, we tend to recommend somebody that's registered with either APDT, which is Association of Pet Dog Trainers, or IMDT. And with behaviourists, if it's a severe separation problem, then you would want somebody with a lot of knowledge and experience in that area. So we tend to recommend CCAB behaviourists. So they've got a lot of in-depth qualifications, knowledge and experience to help. Because as much as anything, you don't want to be throwing money away on somebody that claims to be able to be qualified and be able to fix the problem and then doesn't fix it or potentially makes it worse. But I can always I will send you the abbreviations if you want, and then you can always add them on to the
that'd be good. I can add them as a note because I always get them wrong. But yeah, pop those over to me and we can add them on, and then people hopefully won't feel too stuck. Because it's a weird time.
It is, yeah. And it's a weird time for our dogs, isn't it? I mean, I can remember like the first week my dogs were just like, what are you doing? Why are you here all the time? And they've thought it's great. I think in general, I mean, they're both quite active, quite young anyway. Then I think most dogs are really enjoying probably having more contact. But it's just having that preparation for, we don't know how quickly, once we get how quickly it's going to all go back to normal, or depending on our jobs, how quickly we're going to go back to work or school or whatever. So I think, like everything, if it's preparation is key, isn't it? And if we can, and I would probably say, even if you're not seeing any signs of a dog being a little bit worried about you leaving them or anything, it's still worth doing. It's still worth being conscious of, because you don't want to be in a situation where you think, oh, actually they are really struggling now we've gone back to work, and you didn't think it was that big a problem, because some dogs are quite stoic and they'll hide it quite well until it almost just bubbles up and becomes too much for them.
Yeah, they are good at hiding it, aren't they? It's so important, bless them. Mine are having a ball, they're having a great time. They think, oh, which is, to be fair for Prim, I think she's perhaps missing the salon a bit, because she would chill out and relax in her crate at the salon, whereas I think she's a bit like, oh, can we go back to work yet?
Yeah.
But they don't
And
seem to be struggling too much.
no, and I think it's just being aware as well, you know, like if you are going to start introducing some quiet times, it's not something, particularly for a young dog or puppy, it's not something you would necessarily, you know, get up, give them their breakfast, right now we have a quiet time. I'd probably set myself and them up to succeed a little bit. So maybe we get up, we do some training with them, they go for a little walk or do a little bit of exercise in the garden, then we leave them with some enrichment or some toys when they're that little bit more tired, and it's going to be a bit easier for them to settle, rather than them, you know, first thing in the morning bouncing off the walls. It's picking your moments to add the same as anything, pick your moments to set you both up to succeed.
Yeah, no, that's a good tip, that is, because you don't always think, do you? And it's got to be in a routine for them almost still, hasn't it?
Yeah, and just, you know, like I say, build it up slowly. So if they are okay with you going upstairs and making a few calls or doing some homeschooling, and then you coming back down, you're not making a massive deal of it when you come back down, and they'll learn, oh, actually they go for a little bit and then they come back and it's absolutely fine and it's nothing to worry about, which is what we want.
Absolutely. Well, it's been lovely catching up with you.
And you.
It's been
Thanks for
fun.
having me.
So you'll have to pop me the abbreviations across, and I'll pop them in the notes for this, and then we can I'll share it.
All
Okay.
right, lovely. Will do.
See you. Bye.
Bye.